A chord is any combination of notes that harmonize together. These could be notes on a single instrument, such as a guitar, or a piano, or a chord could be created by different musicians, each playing a single note, like these stringed instruments. Take a look at my video on the major scale to see how notes in a major key relate to each other, because that's where we'll start to look at simple chord types. By far the most important interval used in creating basic chords is the third. Notes a third apart tend to harmonize really well with each other. Let's use the notes of C major for now, but this works just the same way in any major key. Take any two notes that are next but one to each other, and you'll be creating a third. That could be the first and third notes of a major scale, which is a total of 4 semitones, known as a major third. Or, for example, the distance between the second and fourth notes, which spans 3 semitones, known as a minor third. Notice that a major third is a semitone further than a minor third. You might think of the difference between the first and third notes of a major scale, such as this major third in the key of A major, and the first and third notes of a minor scale, like this minor third in the key of A minor. You can hear how the major third sounds brighter than the minor third. So, to recap, we use major and minor thirds to create chords, because these pairs of notes harmonize well together. Here's something to think about. Creating thirds starting on the first note of the major scale, or the fourth note, or the fifth note, will give you major thirds. Starting on any other note will create minor thirds. We'll come back to this idea in a while, but for now make a mental note that major thirds occur on the first, fourth and fifth step of the major scale. Although a pair of notes a third apart does make a simple chord, we generally work with a minimum of 3 notes together. This happens by creating a third and then adding another note a third above. This stack of 3 notes is known as a triad. We refer to the various positions in the triad as the root, the third, and the fifth. Okay, let's look at the various diatonic triads in C major. Diatonic means that they use the notes of a single scale. And, to get into a good habit early on, let's number them using Roman numerals, because that's how they're always labelled. Chord 1 has a major third at the bottom, with a minor third on top. Between them, they create a perfect fifth, another very harmonious interval. The character of the chord comes from this lower interval of a major third, and we say it's a major chord. It's a chord of C major, and normally we just write the root as the name of the chord. You might say it's a C chord, without specifically mentioning it's a major chord, and people will know what you mean. Chord 2, though, has a minor third at the bottom. The upper third is major, and again the triad reaches up to a perfect fifth. This time, then, we have a minor chord beginning on D, and we call that D minor. We write the root note D, followed by an M for minor. Chord 3 is built the same way as chord 2. A minor third on the bottom, reaching a perfect fifth in total, so it's E minor. Chord 4 is major, just like chord 1, that's F major. Chord 5 is also major, in this case G major. Chord 6, well, that's built on a minor third, so that's a minor chord, this time A minor. Finally, chord 7, which is built differently. It's made of 2 minor thirds stacked together, and as a result the fifth is lower than in the other triads. It's called a flattened fifth. It's only 6 semitones above the root, and that interval, which is exactly half an octave, is very dissonant. This flattened fifth, which is the equivalent of 3 tones high, is also known as a tritone, and is often used to create tension in music. For our purposes, we can simply get rid of this chord for now because it's not harmonious. We'll see it again in another video. We're left with 6 useful triads then. Remember, the triads on 1, 4 and 5 are major chords, and the triads on 2, 3 and 6 are minor chords. This is true for any major key. In practice, you can combine these notes in any way you like. Here's a G triad. It uses G, B and D. On the guitar it's often played like this, with 3 Gs, 2 Bs and a D. But as long as you're playing a combination of Gs, Bs and Ds, preferably with a G at the bottom, it's a G chord. So this one is also a G chord. And there are lots of different ways to play a G chord on the guitar. On the piano it might look like this, or this, or any combination of G, B and D. Having the root of the chord at the bottom makes it more obvious and grounded, but having a different note at the bottom creates what's known as an inversion, like this. It's still a G chord. Here's an exercise I often do with songwriting students. Sketch out 8 bars, and roll a dice to see what number chord from 1 to 6 might come next. Here's what I've come up with, but it really could be any combination. Now choose a key and fill in the bars with the appropriate chords. Remember, in any major key, chords 1, 4 and 5 are major and 2, 3 and 6 are minor. Here's how this would look in the key of G. Once you're done, play it through to hear how it sounds. Now, whatever combination you happen to come up with, you'll probably find it reminds you of something else, which isn't surprising because simple songs often just use diatonic chords. To move this up a gear, in the next video we'll look at adding notes to these triads to create sevenths, and that's where the real fun begins.